MOVEMBER, growing mustaches to raise awareness for prostate cancer and other men's health issues. If you'd like to donate, there will be a link in the description. Thank you. To best of three or not to best of three? That is the question. But not really. Because 99.99% of everyone online all seem to agree that this best of three format that the MLS Cup Playoffs used this year wasn't it. But now that part is over. We're on to single elimination. Everyone's happy now, right? Not exactly.
This is fucking bullshit. This is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, they're still pissed. Because all people can seem to talk about is how long these playoffs are taking. The goal of this video is to figure out what MLS should do for the playoffs. What is the best format? That question is actually a little more complicated than most people realize. Because as fans, well, it's simple. We just want the format that's going to put us on the edge of our seats and give us the most excitement. But as a reminder, Major League Soccer, just like every other professional sports league in the world, is a business, and they want to make the most money possible. And contrary to popular belief, money is not a bad thing, because money buys shit, like new stadiums, or like guys named Messi. Ideally, there would be a playoff format that would maximize both excitement potential for the fans and monetary gain for the league. But you won't ever find something that completely satisfies both. It's impossible.
So, I guess you just go through all these formats one by one and then just figure out what the hell MLS should do. Remember when I said that 99.99% of the population don't like best of three? Well, the reason it wasn't 100% was because I kind of dig it. Yeah, best of three is great. I don't mind the extra games. I don't mind teams resetting and changing their approach after a game one loss. I like that element of strategy.
But I have two major, really unforgivable issues with this year's playoffs. Number one being the inconsistency of it. I mean, you go from a single elimination wildcard between the 8 and 9 seed, which, I mean, can we all just admit that this game was unnecessary? I mean, 9 teams per conference to make the playoffs? Fucking 9? Really? But then after that, you go to a best of 3 for one round of the playoffs, and then you go back to a single elimination. It's just so needlessly complicated. You either have to go all best of 3 or no best of 3. But that leads me to my second issue, which is the FIFA international break. This isn't the first year the international break has run through the middle of the playoffs. But every time it's happened, people hated it. It is just a total momentum killer. And when it is time to come back, it's like, oh yeah, the playoffs. I forgot those were still going on. Hey, who's still playing? I mean, Jesus Christ, MLS. How many times do you have to see people comment the "it's been 84 years" gif for you to realize this is an issue? This break sucks. You need to figure out a way to avoid it at all costs. The entirety of the playoffs has to be played either before or after the break. No more of FIFA international break ruining the playoffs.
They managed to avoid it before in the past, so don't try and tell me it's impossible to schedule around, because I ain't buying that.
But now we circle back to me saying it either has to be all best of 3 or no best of 3. Well, if an extra wildcard game plus one best of 3 series means we hit the international break during the playoffs, I cannot imagine a scenario where it's possible to have 3 rounds of best of 3 and not hit the international break. There is just not enough time in the year, unless you want to play MLS Cup at Christmas time. Okay, I'm man enough to admit that I don't mind best of 3, but I'm also smart enough to admit that it's just not feasible to do for the entirety of the playoffs. It just seems like to have a play-in game and then a best of 3 and then single elimination, it's like they're trying to please everyone, but as a result, everyone's just pissed about it.
This is fucking bullshit.
Hey, now, this is something we can all get behind, right? I mean, the two-leg goal aggregate series, that has provided some of the most thrilling playoff series of all time. San Jose, LA Galaxy 2003, Toronto FC, Montreal Impact 2016. It's also provided some absolute duds.
Boring! Yeah, more than a few times, we've seen teams bunker down, happy to leave the stadium with a scoreless draw. And hey, by the way, if you're trying to get new fans into soccer or into MLS, scoreless draws with not a lot of action, that ain't gonna do it.
But I think the bigger issue is that I always felt like this format really undervalued the regular season. Because what's the advantage for having the better record? Oh, you get to host the second leg? I mean, all right, I guess. I remember back in 2009, the Columbus Crew head coach saying something along the lines of, "It's kind of weird that we finished with the best record in the league, and yet we have to start the playoffs on the road." And you know, when you say it out loud like that, yeah, I kind of agree with him. When it comes to the two-leg goal aggregate series, you see a lot more upsets, and a lot of that is because of the lack of any real home field advantage. Don't get me wrong, I like a good Cinderella run, but it can't happen every year because then it just won't seem as special. Without a doubt, the most exciting playoff format for the fans. I mean, just knowing your season is on the line with every playoff game. I remember when they first announced that the playoffs were shifting to single elimination, I was skeptical because I just thought that meant less games to watch. But yeah, after seeing it play out the last couple seasons, I can very confidently say that I like it more. It is definitely can't miss TV. Each game, each goal just means that much more. But as alluded to earlier, it's also the shortest playoff format. And simple math will tell you more games equals more revenue. So I understand why MLS would want to find a way to squeeze out more money from their playoffs. But I don't think the answer is by adding more mediocre teams into the playoffs. I think we've officially hit a point now where we can tell, okay, some of these teams don't belong. I think 8 teams per conference right now is the max you can go. Yeah, a lot of people forget this, but before MLS announced that they were going best of 3 for the 2023 playoffs, an article came out stating that MLS was actually considering going to a World Cup style playoff, meaning 2 groups of 4 per conference, round robin. Now, everyone would play 3 playoff games, but not everyone would have the same amount of home playoff games. The way that would work would be that the higher seed would always host the game. So if you were a 1 or 2 seed, you would host all 3 playoff games. If you were a 7 or 8 seed, good luck, because you would be on the road for 3 playoff games. The top 2 seeds would advance per group, and it would go to single elimination from there.
I don't hate this idea. I mean, it definitely puts a lot of value onto the regular season. I mean, if you're a top seed and you crash out of the group stages, well, you can't blame it on one fluky goal or a bad call from the ref. Like, if you have 3 home playoff games and you don't make it to the next round, you fucked up. And conversely, if you're a bottom seed and you advance to the next round after playing 3 road games, well, kudos to you because you earned it then.
The problem is the same problem as best of 3. It would probably take too long. I mean, we are looking at 31 playoff games. And it's not like MLS could have 8 playoff games a day a la March Madness. I mean, theoretically they could, but then people would bitch about not being able to watch them all.
This is fucking bullshit.
Unless you really cramp the games together in the first round and finish them all within like a week and a half, 2 weeks, I suppose it's possible to finish the playoffs in 4 weeks, but that would be a logistical nightmare. And just looking at the single elimination from the last few years, the way MLS was able to pull that off with avoiding the FIFA international break is by keeping the playoffs to just 3 weeks. And assuming the schedule doesn't change, I think you kind of have to keep it around that same time frame.
So what do we do? I mean, as fans, we want it to be exciting, but MLS wants more games, but those games can't run into the FIFA international window, but fans still need to be engaged and not get bored, which I think is a major problem this year. Oh my God. This is kind of tough. Well, after many sleepless nights, many hours pondering this dilemma, I have come up with not just one, but two solutions.
Okay, if you don't change anything with the schedule, you still have 34 regular season games, you still have Leagues Cup, US Open Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup, then the best format, without a doubt, is single elimination. Yeah, sorry, MLS. I know you want more games, I know you want more money, but you kind of put yourself in this situation. With this many teams in the league, if you insist on having this many teams make the playoffs, you don't have a lot of options. I think it is better to sacrifice the number of games if it means putting on the best product possible. You don't want everyone laughing at you at having a ridiculously long, drawn-out playoff format. You got enough people laughing at you for other reasons. 3 weeks for the MLS Cup Playoffs, that's kind of the magic length that you have to stick with. And single elimination is really the only format you can fit in that time frame. But if MLS is willing to alter their schedule and end the season a little sooner to give yourself more time before the international break, well, then we can have some fun. If I was tasked on doing this, the first thing I would do is shorten the regular season to 32 games. You could do that a number of ways, but the way I would do it would be to just get rid of the conferences.
What?
Yeah, no, I'm serious. Let's go single table. Why not? I mean, when San Diego comes in, we'll be at 30 teams. Single table, you play everyone once. That's 29 games right there. And then you just have each team play 3 other teams twice. And you can make it a regional thing. Like, you know, the Galaxy would play LAFC, San Jose, and San Diego twice. And then Chicago would play like Columbus, SKC, and St. Louis twice. It wouldn't be perfect. You'd have some outliers. But I totally think this would be doable.
And then, if you do have a full month to spare instead of just 3 weeks, you can do a couple things. You could do the 2-leg goal aggregate, you could do the World Cup style, or you could do what I would do, which is double elimination for the first round.
Hear me out, okay? So there's 16 teams, right? First game is played, and then the winners play winners, losers play losers. If you lose twice, you're done. You're out of the playoffs. If you win twice, you get a bye into the quarterfinals. You split the games, well, you gotta play an extra round. So you're not automatically eliminated if you lose one of your first 2 games, but your path towards MLS Cup gets exponentially harder. Now the playoffs would be a total of 27 games, which is a lot, but a little less than 31. And each game would absolutely mean something, which is not necessarily the case with the World Cup format or even the 2-leg goal aggregate series, you know, if leg 1 gets out of hand.
Now I know what you're thinking. Would MLS really do something like this? Well, considering MLS changes their playoff format faster than I change my underwear sometimes, I think there's a possibility that someday maybe MLS delves into double elimination. Maybe it doesn't look exactly like this, but something along these lines. Hey, I'm not ruling it out. Now, with all that being said, how stupid was that idea? Let me know. And also, let me know what is your preferred format for the MLS Cup Playoffs. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.